Hello and welcome one and all. Today I'm covering a request on how to query MySQL database and output data into an Excel or CSV format. We will read data from MySQL database into a Pandas data frame and then output this data to Excel. So first thing we need is a MySQL server and a database up and running. I don't have MySQL installed on my machine. Instead of installing a brand new instance, I'll use a Docker image to spin up a MySQL database. Docker has pre-built images, so we can grab an image from the Docker Hub. I'll launch hub.docker.com and we can search for MySQL. Here's the official image of MySQL. And we can use this image to install MySQL in a Docker container. I'll scroll down and this is the command we need to download and install this image. I'll go ahead and copy this command and we will need to make few changes before we can run it. So I'll open up Notepad and paste this command here. I'll update the image name and call it db-mysql. This is our image name. And I'll change the password to demopos01. You can set it to your liking. And I'll remove the tag after MySQL at the end. And final piece, we need to set a port number. So I'll say -p and then map the container port to the host port. The default port for MySQL is 3306. So this is the container port and then we map this to our system port. Let me check this command to see if everything looks in order, and it does. I'll copy this command and open up command prompt. You'll need Docker desktop application installed on your machine. I am running the Docker desktop on Windows. I'll paste this command in the command prompt and hit enter to execute. It is going to check if the image exists on my machine, and if it does not, then it will pull the latest image from Docker Hub. And once the download is complete, it is going to go ahead and install this image locally. So we will wait for the installation to complete. The install is complete and everything completed successfully. We can check what images are running with the docker ps command. And our image is up and running, and this tells me that MySQL image is up. It is running on the TCP port 3306. And we see the revised image name that we gave db-mysql. Next step is to connect to this image of MySQL from the host machine. For this, I'll use MySQL Workbench to establish a connection to this database. If you don't have MySQL Workbench installed on your machine, then this will be a good point to pause and install it. MySQL Workbench is up and running, and we are going to add a new connection. So I'll click the plus icon. This is going to bring up the new connection dialog box. First, we will give this connection a name. I'll call it MySQLDB, and you can call it whatever you like. Next is the host name or the IP. I'll leave it as the IP of the local machine, and the port number is fine. Root is the default user, so we'll leave it as root, and we need to store the password. So I'll supply the password as demopos01 and click to store the password. Now we are ready to test the connection. So I'll go ahead and click on test connection button. And the connection is successfully made. I'll click OK to save this connection settings. We can click on this connection and it is going to open up. Our MySQL server is running and we are successfully connected to it. Right now, we don't have any database except the system database. We can download a sample database from MySQL tutorial, and I'm on their website, and I'll scroll down and locate the download link. I'll click it to begin the download of the sample database. It comes in as a SQL script. Let me bring it on this screen, and I'll go ahead and open this file. So this is the SQL script. We will create the sample database with this script. I'm going to copy and paste this script in MySQL Workbench query window. The database is called Classic Model. This script will create the database and the tables for us. And if you need more details on the tables themselves, then head to MySQL tutorial and they have a nice ERD diagram. This gives you an overview of the database tables and how these tables are related to each other. You can check this out on your own time, and I'll go ahead and quickly create this database. So I'll execute the script and refresh the schemas, and voila, we have a database in place. I'll expand the table node and query one of the tables. Let me select the orders table, and let's issue a select statement against it. This query successfully returns data. So we have a fully functional database that's running in a Docker container. I will copy the select statement and we will use this as a query in Python. I have a Jupyter notebook open and I'll save this select statement in a variable called SQL. We need to import a couple of libraries, mysql and pandas. MySQL is already installed as the library is imported successfully. If this gives you an error, then you can issue a pip install command here. I'll go ahead and add another cell below. We can issue a pip install mysql command. The library is installed, and if it is not, then this will install it. We have mysql and pandas library imported. Next, we will create a connection to MySQL database. I'll add a couple of cells below, and I'll create a connection using the MySQL that we referenced as connection. This has a connect method, and we will use that to establish a connection. And to the connect method, we need to provide few arguments. First is the host. This will be your computer name or IP address. Since it's on my machine, I can write localhost for the host name. And then we have the database. The database is called Classic Models. I can go back and verify that in MySQL Workbench. And the database name is correct. We will need a user. At the moment, we only have one user called root. This is the default user. And for the password, we will provide demopass01. This is the password we set when creating the Docker image. Finally, I'll set usePair to true as the last argument. Okay, our connection looks good, and we have our SQL query already here. I'll define a df variable and set this equal to pd.readsql. And this function takes SQL query and the connection. Our connection is called db. So I'll go ahead and run this cell. Oh, I didn't run the cell with the SQL query. I'll run this first so the SQL variable is defined. Let's try this again, and this time it executed successfully. Let's have a look at the data frame. It's a success. We have our data inside our data frame. Now we can go ahead and call the df2excel function to export this data to Excel file. We will provide the file name and set the index to false. With this in place, I'll go ahead and run the cell. Let's check out the base directory where our notebook is located. We have our Excel file with this name on the disk. So we have successfully exported the data to Excel from MySQL database. One final thing, whenever you open a database connection, it is a good practice to close the connection whenever you're done. So we'll call the db.close to close this connection. So this is how we connect to MySQL database, query the database, and then export the data to Excel or CSV file. I hope you enjoyed this quick tutorial. This is all for now. Thank you for watching, take care, and I'll see you in the next video.